Hey guys, welcome to Poor Man Mods. A couple years ago, I did a video installing aftermarket LED taillights in my 2008 ISF, and I absolutely freaking love them. But the same company that sent me those sent me another set of taillights. We have a new style of LED taillights for the IS chassis. They have a startup animation and a sequential turn signal. They should look pretty stinking awesome. So in this video, I'm going to show you how to install these taillights and show you what they look like on the car. If you're interested in those taillights, I'll have a link in the description down below to the video where I installed those. But I'm pretty excited about these. Install for these taillights is going to be a little bit more involved than those. This kit did come with some resistors and some wiring harnesses. So it's going to be a little bit different, but it still shouldn't be too hard. So let's get over to the car, take those old LED taillights out, and install these new bad boys and see how they look. And of course, if you're interested in these, I'll also have a link to these in the description down below. So let's get started. All right, to get this taillight out and also the taillight that's on the trunk, you need to take the interior panel apart. You just need a trim panel removal tool for all the clips. And then there's also a little hook right here that's a Phillips or a 10. I'm going to use a Phillips here. And if you're in the market for a pretty sweet internal trunk light, you can see right here, a little shameless self-plug here. My company, FredTech, makes this plug-and-play LED trunk light that lights up the trunk super bright, and you can throw a party if you want because it changes colors. So yeah, shameless plug there. I'll also have a link in the description for that if you're interested. But let's get this interior carpet piece peeled back. That way we can get to the nuts that hold this in. Bunch of these little clips. That's pretty much all you need to do. And then you can access the 3 nuts right here that secure the taillight, and it comes right off. Hard to see, but the harness runs right down here, and you have to unplug it. So once you get this unplugged, you should be able to pull this bad boy out. This is literally just going to be the reverse process. We're going to put our new LED taillight in. This little guy right here, which is on all of the lights, is a switch that controls the animation. So we'll mess with that once we get everything installed, but comes with this harness and this little switch. So get all of these through the hole in the body and then just put the nuts back on. It's very important when you go to tighten these, you don't need to make them super tight. You don't want to break the studs. Just make them snug. This is not a motor. It does not need to be torqued like crazy. You're going to be in a bad mood if you break one of these studs. Once again, hard to see just because it's way down here, but we'll get this connector plugged in. Then we'll plug our harness that came with the kit into this little guy. The purpose of this harness is to connect the taillights together, I guess, for the sequential stuff. So we'll plug this in like that, and then this one will route to the light that's on the trunk itself. We'll get the trunk light installed. Pop off these clips. There's only 3 fasteners holding this light on. You got 2 plastic nuts right here. And then there's 1 on the inside. Okay, now that that's loose, we'll unplug it from here. Okay, got our new taillight section, pretty straightforward. We'll get it installed. You can see this does have a resistor built in. So hopefully we won't need to add any more resistors, but there is a possibility this will hyper flash, and that's why the kit does come with more resistors. But they did try and install one beforehand. When installing and removing this nut in particular, be very careful. It has the tendency to fall out. If it does fall out, it's gonna fall down here in this corner, and you'll need to get a magnet and get it. Not that big of a deal, but it is possible. It did happen to me. So with the taillight out, you can just put a magnet straight down in here in this corner, and that's where it's gonna be. These are 10mm, these plastic nuts. I'm just doing it by hand, and I just tightened that one down too much and the stud came through. So you don't need to make these tight. I literally just broke that one. So just make them hand tight. Here's our little switch to control the animation, and we'll get this wired up. Put that in there. And here is the wire that we connected to the taillight on the fender. We'll plug that in right here. We'll tidy that up later once we have this complete. So for now, I'm just gonna connect the wires directly. I'm not gonna run this neatly. I'm gonna get the other side installed and then get the sequence and animations and everything to the way I like it, and then I'll come back and clean everything up. But that basically is the mechanical part of this install. Very straightforward. So I'll get the other side installed, and then we'll continue with wiring if additional wiring is needed. So I tested out the lights, and with my current setup in my car, I did need to add one of the resistors. What's super weird about this, my turn signals were fine. They did not hyper flash, but when I stepped on the brake pedal without any of the resistors, it threw a check engine light, an ABS light, a brake light, a VCS light. The car went crazy. So for the resistors with the red and black wire, you have two different sizes, a larger one and a smaller one. I first used the larger ones, and I didn't like how hot they got. They got pretty hot and softened the heat shrink around it, which made me feel uncomfortable. So I stepped down to the smaller resistor, and very simple, I just used two wire taps, and you connect the red wire of the resistor to the red wire on the taillight harness, and the black wire to the black wire. Very simple, and I just used two wire taps on each side. You can crimp or solder or whatever method you choose, but this is just a quick and dirty setup right here, and I use those wire taps. So now that I have everything working properly, I can go back and clean this up off camera and properly run the wires, but you guys don't need to see that. It's tedious and boring. So why don't I show you what these look like? And before I show you these taillights, these switches, there's a switch on each taillight, so there's 4 switches total, and all they do is activate or deactivate the startup animation and the sequential turn signal. So one setting, you get the sequential and the animation, and the other setting, it's turned off, and they just operate normal on and off. So with this car, when I activated the animation and the sequential turn signal, that's when the car got unhappy and threw all those lights. If I turned off the animation and sequential, I did not need to add the resistor. Very weird, but I do like the animation and sequential turn signal, so I'm gonna leave the resistors in and leave the animation on. So let's close the trunk, turn the shop lights off, and you can see how these lights look. The screen on my camera is showing that this light looks orange or a little bit orange, but in person it is absolutely red. There is no orange going on here. The only orange is the turn signal. Everything else is red. So the camera doesn't do a good job of portraying the color, but this is a beautiful looking red, no orange. we'll take a look at the reverse lights. All right, guys, there you go. Got the taillights installed, and I got to say, I am absolutely loving these things. The animation looks so good. I don't know why you would turn it off, and the sequential looks so good too. I didn't show you a clip of them turned off because it's literally just eliminating that animation, and the turn signal is a flash rather than the sequential. So my advice is leave the animation on with the sequential. The reverse lights for this, they're all right. They're not horrible. But you do have a backup camera, so it's not that big of a deal. But the taillights themselves and the turn signals are looking so much better. Gives it a much more modern look. And like I said, for this car, I only needed the smaller resistor for it to work. I didn't trust that bigger one. And yeah, now the car has no problems at all, and it's looking a lot better. So one more thing, these taillights on camera, at least at my screen, they look orange. But I promise the only orange or amber on these taillights is for the turn signal. The actual taillight, like what's on right now, is pure red. There is no orange. So the camera isn't doing it too much justice there, but trust me, it's all red, no orange. If you guys want to give your Lexus IS a more modern and cool look, I highly recommend these taillights. I'll have a link in the description down below for you. And yeah, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you learned something, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.